Hey y'all, welcome. My name is Katie Marie, and on my channel I like to talk about palettes, and today we're going to be talking about a brand new palette just launched or just revealed from Nomad Cosmetics. Now I'm sure you guys have seen it if you follow Nomad at all. You know, they share it on their social media, and at the time of me posting this, it should be when they finally reveal the color story and show that palette as a whole, and then I'm able to put out this video. So I'm sure you've seen the palette, but here is what the cover looks like. I don't know if pictures will do it justice, but hopefully you guys can see in the video that has a beautiful holographic shift to it that is so stunning whenever you're holding it, and it has a very distinct two-sided element to the palette that has doors that you open up in the middle, has a mirror on both sides, and the palette, or the eyeshadows within that. If you ever got their Shanghai palette, this is exactly the same style. I am not the biggest fan of the little wings. I mean, it's just a preference thing. It's not enough for me to like not use it, but it's just not my favorite. But you can fold the wings back, and I just kind of set it on my makeup table like this so they're not in the way. But yeah, this is the color story. As you can see, a very divided line between warm and dark, warm tone, cool tones, pink, purple, gray, a very fun combination. And even though pinks and purples, I always tell you guys this, aren't really my type of tones, I love this kind of format when it comes to pinks and purples because it gives me the ability to kind of mix and match them up and play around with the way I use them, and it's not just like an all soft pink look, if that makes sense. As I talk, I'm going to go ahead and put up swatches on the screen so you guys can see them. You have 12 mattes in here and only 6 shimmers, which if you're new around here, I love more mattes than shimmers, so I was really excited about that. And I really love the selection. You got dark tones when you have like a really dark black, but then you have lighter grays. You have a really bright or deep reds and pinks, but then you have very light and soft pinks, which makes it look so easy to put together because you have all the different hues within that color to aid in blending it out. So I love that attention to detail that Nomad puts into their shadows. And then the shimmers that they put aren't any type of boring shimmers. Yes, there's different formulas, and maybe I'm not the biggest fan. We'll get into that in a minute, but the way they look on your eyes is always so beautiful, so unique and special. And there's just so much shine to my eyeshadow looks when I was creating looks with this palette. So yeah, as a whole, I was really excited to get to dive into this palette and share with you guys the looks. If you're new to my channel, what I like to do with a new palette is I share at least 3 looks, and what I'm going to do is let the 2 looks play with just music overlay and just kind of sped up to quickly see how the eyeshadows perform and the looks that I create. And then for the 3rd look, I'm going to do a talk through style, and I'll be able to talk to you guys through all of the formulas, all of the shadows, and what I think about it. So that's kind of where the meat of my review is going to come from, and then we'll come back here at the end to chit chat a little bit more about my thoughts on the palettes before we end the video. So with that said, let's just go ahead and hop in. We'll hop into look number 1, and I can show you guys the different type of looks I created with the newest Nomad palette. Okay, so let's dive into the third look for this video. I'm just gonna put a little bit of lip balm on. This is from Kaleidos. It's a lip mask, actually, not a balm, but my lips are so dry, so I've been trying to get back into the habit of putting a lip balm on before I start my makeup. I also already put on a eyeshadow primer, and for today, pretty sure I didn't use it for either the previous two looks, but I'm using the Glam Light Icing Primer, and it's time to dive in. I really want to do a look that combines both sides, and the shade I'm so excited to use finally is this Comedy. Yeah, Comedy shade. The color is like one of my favorite colors. It's just so fun. It's like an orange but a red but gold. It's lovely. So now comes the time to decide what to do, and of course I'm going to try to do something a little bit different than I have done. So I'm gonna need a minute. I think I'm gonna do a graphic liner, so like a graphic liner look on the outer corner. So I'm gonna start with the black and a really tiny pencil, because maybe I'm getting overconfident here, but I think I'll have a decent amount of time to do my makeup today, so I want to get a little creative. I feel like I always take 10 times longer on a graphic line look. I'm going to take this little e.l.f. concealer brush, just something really tiny, and let's go ahead and just draw the line. That's what the black is going to be, and then I think I'm going to use either the blue or the purple inside of that, kind of like to fade into. I think I'll do the blue because I already used the purple today, and I like to try and use different shades for each of the looks just to show you guys something different when I can. So we're gonna bring it out like that. So smooth. If this is your first time seeing a video on Nomad Cosmetics or one of my videos, I'm a big fan of their formulas. They have a very smooth formula. It's very pigmented, like smooth to a fault even, because like some of their really soft or lighter colors, like lighter shades, can be a little too soft when it comes to like almost, I don't know, almost like sticking down. They're so soft. But their darker shades, because of that softness and that intense pigment, like they pack a punch. Like that was so easy to do. So that's the kind of like outer edge, what we're gonna work with. I feel like that's a good angle. I did take off my previous makeup I was wearing, so that's why it's a little rough out here. But I'll fix that up whenever I finish my eye makeup, because I have a feeling I will make a mess per usual. But I'm just gonna bring this up this way and I'll connect it back. And since I'm gonna have that orange in the outer corner, what do I want on the outer edge? They have such intense colors, like this Love shade, this matte, I used it, I think the look you just saw right before this one, so intense. Let me finish and try to make these two even, and I'm gonna do that off camera because it's gonna take me a while, and I'll try to think about what I wanna do, but because there's so many different avenues I can go, and I love mixing things up, so I gotta think a minute. Let me grab this brush. It's one of my favorites, R106 from What's Up Beauty. Perfect little flat brush. I had used it in the previous look, so it's very dark black and purple, but I wanna use this for that blue Poison. It's like a blue purple. I've been saying blue, but it's like a blue purple. So I have a feeling it's gonna look more purple in this look, but we're gonna go into that shade right there, and I'm gonna pack that directly on top and kind of like right in here, just so it's not, I don't know, I just want a little pop of, or not even a pop, but I just want a hue of a different shade. Oh shoot, I went too far. Oh, come on, Katie. I'll have to clean that up. I want a hue of dark blue out here instead of just black. So maybe not a big difference, but it's a little difference for me. I like a different hue when I can. But yeah, that goes on so smooth. Like I don't know how well you can see this side because it's away from the camera, but just that's such a smooth transition, just patting it over from the blue to the black. And it's so pigmented. I think that's my favorite thing, is just they're so intense. There's no aspect when I'm working with Nomad mattes, and like it holds true with this palette, but there's never like a point where I'm blending and I'm like, okay, it's great, but it's just a little thin, like I can see my skin through it. No, I always feel like it covers and conceals and goes over my skin flawlessly. Okay, so at this point, I think what I want to do is go and play with one of these two shades because I haven't played with them out here. Go with the more corally tone because like we're going to use the shimmer on the inner half, and then this coral can be on the outer half. We're going to use this to kind of blend right into there, into this dark shade right on top of it. This is called Light. As always, beautiful impressions in the shadow. I always hate to mess it up, but I'm just going to go over and tap this over to kind of set it down, because I don't want to like ruin the line that I've created, but I do like to blend it out. I'm not someone who likes to do the graphic line and just leave it completely without any color. I don't know, maybe I should, but I tend to like a little bit more work in the outer corner, a little bit of blending, and anytime I can use more color in the outer corner as well, I'm always happy to. So yeah, just blend it in like this. And then what do we want on the inside? I'm totally making up this look as I go, so I hope it turns out. But let's see, I kind of like, you guys, if you've been here a while, I'm sure are not surprised, but I kind of like swapping. So I'm going to put that coral on the inside. I want that coral pink on the outside. So on the inside, I kind of want to do a more cool tone take. I don't know if I want to do gray or purple. I'm leaning towards purple, because then I feel like the blue will kind of stand out more as blue, whereas if I go gray inside, I feel like it'll just lean more black as a whole. I don't know, I'm not an expert when it comes to doing my eyes, and I'm not an expert when it comes to the color wheel, color theory, and all that. Most times I'm just like, oh, that's pretty, let's see if it works together. I always kind of chuckle when you guys, sometimes I'll get comments of like, I totally didn't think that those two colors would go well together, but it turned out in the end, and I'm like, yeah, I probably should have thought a little longer about how that might clash, but in my head in the moment, I was like, oh, sure, these will look fine together. Okay, so there's that, just very lightly done. I might go back a little bit later after I'm all done and kind of cut it out and just make it nice and smooth, because not that it got super hazy, but it's a little bit hazy, and of course I have to fix up that outer corner because I make mistakes. But anyway, I'm gonna go in with this Profusion brush, but it's that should be a good size. It's a little blending brush, and I'm going to, what did I say? I want to go with purple. So we're going to start with this shade that has a little dig in it. Thanks to my cat Peppermint, she tried to walk across my desk and dug her heels into it. I don't know if I got it in the video. I think I did. I just don't know if you like see enough for me to keep it in. If you could tell what's going on, I left it in so you guys saw it, but I might have to cut it out if it doesn't make much sense. But I couldn't believe that she went to go climb across it and just scratched it. And so I had to sit there and wipe her paw off because I did not want her to track eyeshadow all over the house. No, thank you. Not what we want going on this morning. Okay, so this is blending out very nice, very beautifully. It's one shade, and it's such a color that you can use it to just effortlessly blend, and that's gonna go really beautifully into that coral, the bright coral. So beautiful. I'm going to want a little bit more depth, which is okay. I don't mind. You guys know I like to layer shades, so I'm going to take that darkest purple here in a minute on an even tinier brush and just kind of finish out the cut crease line that's going through here and just bring it all the way down. I just didn't want to bring it with that blue or the black because I feel like that's pretty darn harsh, or like not harsh in a bad way, but just very intense, and it might have been a little bit too much. So I'm just going to put this down, and then I'll take the purple. And then hopefully having this purple, this lighter lavender purple also down already will help it not be too crazy intense and too hard to work with and blend. So as you can see, like I feel like the shadows are speaking for themselves. They're blending beautifully, no issues at all. Absolutely lovely. And now to find a really tiny detail brush, because I don't want to go crazy. I'm going to take this little fat liner brush and I'm going to go into dark, which is this shade right here. And I'm gonna take that starting here and just bring it down. Might need a little bit more. This is meant for a liner, so it's not really great to like grab eyeshadow, but if I can manage to get it on, I love how skinny it is. If you have any recommendations for a really good skinny, like this skinny type of blending brush that I can use in my crease work, I feel like I'm always wanting to do this after the fact just to intensify a look, or in this case to make it a little bit more cut creasy. Let me know, because this is from Makeup by Tammy. These were meant for graphic liner, like water activated liners. This one was way too fat, and I wasn't a fan of it, and I almost decluttered it, and then I was like, oh, I bet I could use it for eyeshadow. And that's why I kept it, and that's what I use it for. It works okay, but like I said, sometimes I have to really sit there and pack on the shadow to get it to stick. Yeah, that made a difference, at least in my opinion. It made a difference and got it a little bit more darker. Not a line, and I'm contemplating going back with the dark blue or black to really get a line, but I don't think it's gonna matter too much because I'm gonna be putting that shimmer in there, so I think this will give enough depth to poke out around the shimmer that you'll be able to tell without needing to take like the black in there or anything like that. So there's that. I feel like I always second guess my graphic liner whenever I do this, but anyway, really happy with this. Let me go ahead, reposition myself. I'm gonna go ahead and finish out the lower lash line. What do I want on the lower lash line? Let's go all gray. I'm going to pick up a really tiny little blending brush, and I'm gonna pick up, let's start with that Inferno, this dark gray, and see how well that works, and then we can probably just go in with the same brush and add a dab of black if we need it. But let's see how well this stands on its own 2 feet. I didn't put any eye primer down here, and it did have makeup, what do you call it? I did set my eye makeup down here, so it's probably not going to stick as well as if it was on bare skin or a primer, but it's going on well enough. It's more of like one of that final blending shade that I like to lay down to blend out the darkest shade. So I'm just going to kind of transition to doing that. Be a little bit, not sloppy, but a little bit more all over, and then I'm going to dip into that black and place it right down there. So yeah, definitely I feel like that gray kind of shows what I was talking about, where sometimes Nomad's eyeshadows are like soft to a fault, where I feel like it's so soft it didn't want to stick that gray doesn't really want to stick down, since there's nothing super tacky and it's such a light color. You really can't tell. I don't notice that like to be an issue at all with the really dark mattes, because I think they just have so much pigment to them that it helps them stand out. But the lighter colors are just so light, and then they're so soft. That's where I feel like you can almost be soft to a fault, but still very pretty. So that's what that looks like. I like how that looks. I got some fallout here. I should probably dust away, and I will redo my concealer off camera once we finish my eyes, because we're on to the exciting part. I'm going to use, ooh, I just threw it, the NYX primer, or glitter primer. Almost out of this, but we're going to go on to the shimmers. And per usual, I'm kind of wanting to use at least 2 shimmers on my lid, because I just like doing that, and I can try more, and I just like the effect of 2 different shimmers blended on the lid. But part of me also wants that beautiful coral gold shade that I'm excited about to stand on its own 2 feet. So the struggle. But for today, let's use 2. So let me think. So talking about the shimmers, you guys saw 2 looks already. There's definitely 2 different formulas. This shade here tends to be that kind of flaky, almost hard to pick up with a brush type of sleek, smooth shimmer. Did that make sense? It's flaky as in like it's so hard to pick up because it's so smooth. When you finally get it on a brush, it almost has too much and chunks off. And when you put it on, if you're not really careful to put it on just a little bit, really smooth it out and stuff, it can look chunky and like Sahara Deserty or dragon scaly on the eyes, like too chunky. And I think for this look, let's put this all over the lid, and we'll put this on the inner half, because this is the only shade, these 2 are the only shades I haven't put on my eyes. Again, it's just nitpick and preference when it comes for me as to why I saw it as like a not my favorite type of shade. They're beautiful on, they're definitely worth the work, but they're one of those shades I go into knowing I'm gonna have to put a little bit more work into it. So let's start out with Comedy, because I just can't help myself. I really wanna use this shade. Picking it up with a brush, again, it's that very smooth type of formula, but it's look like it's picking up a little bit easier on a brush than the other shades, and it's also like it's more finely milled than, for example, I think the worst one in this palette was Cupid. Like Cupid is a little bit more chunky and flaky, so while it was a little hard to pick up, when I finally got it picked up, it was a little too flaky on my brush, if that makes sense. This one, I can get it picked up on a brush, but it looks very fine on my brush, so I don't anticipate it to be very chunky on my lid. I hope that all makes sense. So let's just pop this in right on my lid. Yeah, this is that type of, this reminds me of their Santa's Village, the eyeshadow formula. It's a little bit, it feels firmly pressed, but not like an eyeshadow firmly pressed. It makes me think of a Super Shock from ColourPop firmly pressed, if that makes sense, and if that helps kind of for you to envision and figure out how this formula is and how it would be. So it feels firmly pressed. It's a little tricky to pick up, but it's very smooth when you touch it. But then when it's on your brush, it does take, like, I feel like I'm putting a good bit of pressure on my eye to get it to transfer. And at this point, I'm just going to clean off this brush, and like I said with the Santa's Village, I feel like it's going to be one of those eyeshadows that is just easiest if you just go like this and pop it on with your finger, because it's just going to be quicker and easier than a brush, and probably also less messy because your finger can give the pressure to keep it from falling all over your face, if that makes sense. So anyway, very, very pretty. Let's go on to Romeo, which is that last shade that I haven't tried. Again, same type of formula. This is like a purple pink shift. I'll be curious to see what it looks like next to the other shadow. Again, yeah, kind of reminds me the same type of formula as the one I put on the center of my lid, except this is more sheer iridescent, whereas this, the first shade, Comedy, has more pigment to the shadow. This is a little bit more iridescent, like an aspect to it, an iridescent shift to it. So I feel like I'm gonna have to pack it on a little bit to really get it to pop, but it's gonna be beautiful when it comes to the shift and the shine that I see. I feel like there's a little bit of sparkle when I really study the eye look, but for the most part, the effect that I'm seeing with these shimmers in this palette is a lot more focused on like shine, like just intense shine as opposed to like tons of sparkles, if that helps you any. There definitely is sparkles, not to say that it's not, but it just kind of speaks to me more and like stands out to me more as a very shiny, high shine shadow. That's really pretty. I'm going to take a little bit more of that. Like I'm using a really flat brush and putting a good bit of pressure when I'm going in there to try to pick it up. But I'm going to put it over this orange. And then like I like to do, pick up the orange again or the coral, whatever shade this is, and tap it back over. So at this point, I want to go back to that blue, which is Poison. And we're just going to tap it right on top of that very lightly because I put a little too much on this brush. We're going to tap it back over that that coral orange, whatever it is, comedy shade, just to blend it in like that. Okay, so I think this is going to, oh, I almost forgot, inner corner. My camera's about to die, so I'm gonna finish this one off camera, but let's go ahead and I want to do Mars as my inner corner because this shade, I know I tend to just like those colors, but this shade is also just stunning, so I really want to use it. So let me see if I can find a clean brush before my camera dies, and let's put Mars on. Again, very firm. I'm really pressing very hard in there. Not a ton of fallout. I see a little bit of fallout on my face, but with a brush like this, which is kind of like a pencil brush, it makes this easy. It makes this shadow pretty easy to pack on my inner corner and then blend it out, and it just has tons of shine to it and a nice sparkle, kind of like all the same color because it sparkles in that aspect, but very, very pretty and super easy to throw on there. So let me go ahead and I'm going to finish out this eye, clean up the mess I made out here, and I need to redo my face makeup and refreshen my mascara, and then we can close out at the end with my final thoughts for this new palette from Nomad Cosmetics. Verona Amor e Morta, I think is how you pronounce this. I'm typically wrong, but I tried. This is the final look, and I'll stick up close up so you guys can see how it turned out and be able to see up close not only, you know, the sparkle to it, the shift to it, but how they blend and whatnot. I'm really happy with how it looks. Again, I like that type of aspect where I kind of put dark on the outer corner with a pop of color, and then you got color on the inner corner with the dark in the crease. I think it turned out really well. The formula for the shimmers, I feel like as a whole, is not my favorite type of formula simply because it's very difficult to pick up with a brush. If you tried Simply Posh Cosmetics Fairy Tale Fairies palette last year, it really does remind me of that formula. Now it ranges as far as like the chunkiness. Yes, they're all kind of difficult, a little bit difficult. I would say Juliet is the easiest to pick up with a brush, but they're all a little bit tricky, and it's just so slick. It's like I said, Super Shock pressed really firm. They're so, you know, slick to pick up. It takes some effort to pick up with a brush, but for the most part, the only shades that I didn't super enjoy applying and like having the issues of being too chunky were really Cupid was the worst, and a little bit of Moors, but both of those are more of the lighter tones, and they apply beautifully as the inner corners. So even though they're a little bit tricky and you have to be careful not to get too flaky and like dragon scales all over your eyes, it still serves a wonderful purpose in this palette for inner corner highlight, and you know, just being careful. It wasn't too bad. It's just a little bit flaky, so I do want to warn you there. But as a whole, very, very pretty, and like I said, the shimmers were just, you know, they weren't my favorite formula, but they give so much shine. They're very beautiful in eye looks, and you know, everyone likes different formulas, so hopefully my description on those shimmers will help you, but the mattes, per usual, I love. So that is going to do it for this video. I hope this video was helpful for you guys and decide if this palette might be the one for you. For me personally, I did enjoy it. I don't think it's going to rank super high in like all of my Nomad palettes, but each palette doesn't have to. You know, palettes, you know, brands can't always be like topping their last palette for me, you know, because everyone has different preferences, and for it to be such a heavy pink and purple type of color story, you know, those aren't my favorite tones that really grab me and just speak to me. Also, the cover isn't my favorite type of cover to display, but yeah, those are just little nitpicks about it. As a whole, I really enjoyed the looks that I got and the color story. I thought they did a fantastic job putting and curating the color story within this palette. I was very happy and pleased, and I feel it like lives up to the outer packaging, per usual, lives up to the theme of the palette very, very well. So hopefully this video is helpful for you guys. As always, let me know down below in the comments. Let me know if you're planning to pick it up. And yeah, with all that said, that's going to do it for me. Thank you guys so very much for watching. As always, I'm over on Instagram, LadyKatey92 over there, where I post reels, up close eye pictures, all that sort of thing. And with all that said, I'll see you guys very soon in my next video. Bye guys.